Hey, here we are again. Good to see you. This episode is on hip mobilization exercises, and if you have watched the intro that I actually haven't recorded yet, but I've alluded to many times, we're actually not doing stretching, but we're strengthening our muscles in the longest position. And I'm having incoming messages, so I'm sorry I'm getting distracted because there are all these pop-ups that distract me while I'm recording. But okay, so hip mobilization exercises consist of several, because we have hamstrings. We need to strengthen the hamstrings in their long position. We have quadriceps. We need to strengthen the quadriceps in their long position. We have the deep rotators of the hip. We need to strengthen those in their long position. We have the adductors. We need to strengthen them in their short and long position. In the long position for both those that cross the knee joint and those that don't, such as the adductor brevis and adductor magnus, and even longus. Only the gracilis crosses the knee joint. So, and of course the sartorius. So we'll need, sartorius is actually an external rotator of the tibia, and not so much of an adductor, but they cross the knee joint. It crosses the knee joint. So we also need to strengthen the hip flexors in their long position, so namely the rectus femoris as well as the iliopsoas, the iliacus and the psoas. So let's do them in turn. Okay, I'm trying to do the camera work as best as I can, but you know I'm quite useless in this. Let me try and do the first one. Let's do the quadriceps muscles, okay? So the quadriceps muscles, you're gonna watch me perform strengthening exercises in the long position. And again, I'm refraining from using the word stretching, because stretching kind of implies a passive kind of activity, and we don't want to do that. So quadriceps, pretty clear. We hold on to our ankle, all right? We're trying to hold on to our ankle rather than the foot, so we don't hurt the foot. It really doesn't matter if you have strong ankles and if you held the foot. But in this position, we want to actually resist. We want to kick down. We want to extend, okay, while we pull. So we don't just pull passively. This is one position, and because we're here like this, we want to engage the core. If you're not clear about that, please watch the core strengthening exercises that I actually haven't recorded yet. Okay, anyways, so you hold this position while resisting, meaning you're actually trying to extend your knee, but your hand is restricting that extension of the knee. So you're holding onto your ankle, and you do this for 15-20 seconds, okay? You do it for both sides, obviously. We're gonna do the hip flexors next. And for the hip flexors, it's a two parts. Let me see how to film this. This should be done in two parts. So the first part is you're gonna do a lunge, okay? Lunge, and you're gonna strengthen the hip flexors by actually trying to close this gap. You're trying to kick forward with the rear leg, but obviously because you're on the ground, you can't kick forward. So it's not just a stretch, you're actually actively trying to kick forward. Now this again is different from active stretching, because active stretching you're trying to kick backwards. This is not active stretching. This is trying to kick forward and being resisted by the ground or whatever is resisting you. Now that's the first part, okay? So you hold that for 15-20 seconds, and then notice this is very important. You turn you turn the foot in front inwards, okay? So with the knee, of course, okay? So the front knee is pointed at 90 degrees to the rear knee, and you're gonna go down. You're still gonna feel the stretch in the rear hip, not the front hip, but the rear hip, okay? So the anterior knee and foot were turned medially, and you have, well, your whole body turns medially, I'm sorry. So the only thing that is out of anatomical position is really the rear leg. The rear leg now is actually internally or medially rotated. Again, you're gonna try and push down into the ground. It's not a passive stretch. You're gonna hold that position for 15 to 20 seconds. Let me try and show it to you from another angle. So, this is your angle from my rear. I hope you enjoy this rear view. So this is a front lunge with the right leg forward. I am actually strengthening my left hip flexors in the longest position. You hold this for 15-20 seconds, and then you turn the right knee and foot and your body towards 90 degrees medially. So now actually it's the left hip that is medially rotated 90 degrees. Everything else is now facing this way, the direction that you've turned in towards. And you again kick forward with your left leg. Hold that position for 15 to 20 seconds. Now, I'm not sure if you got a good view of that, but that's what I've been able to come up with. Maybe I can improve on it some other time. So we've done quadriceps, we've done hip flexors. Now we're going to do ankle mobilization we've done. So now we're going to do seated hamstrings, okay? So hamstring strengthening. Hamstring strengthening, I want you to notice a few things. The reason I have this in a modified hurdler stretch is that you don't want one tighter hamstrings to be the limiting factor. So that's why we flex the knee of one side that we're not strengthening at the moment, we're not working on. We're working on the other leg, the other hamstrings. I want you to notice two things. One is I'm not just passively stretching, okay? I want you to notice that I'm actually actively pressing my heel onto the ground. Two, my body's not rounded forward as in a back stretch or a back strengthening or whatever you want to call it. It's not really strengthening in that case, it's really like a back stretch. I'm pushing myself forwards with my arms behind me. My hands are behind me. So I'm pushing myself forwards at the hip rather than reaching forward like this. Okay? So I'm pushing myself forwards at the hips. The other thing I want you to notice is that my foot, my right foot, is not pulled back like this. When you pull it back like this, you feel a greater stretch, but that stretch is on the sciatic nerve. How do we know that? Because we know that the hamstrings don't cross the ankle joint. Now, if the hamstrings doesn't cross the ankle joint, why would you want the sciatic nerve be a limiting factor? You don't want that to happen. Therefore, you can point your foot like a ballet dancer, and when you do that, plantar flexion of the ankle, you will not feel that stretch in the sciatic nerve anymore. So now you're really putting the hamstrings alone in the long position, and then you press your heel down towards the ground as you push with your hands behind you, so you roll forward on your hips. Okay, do that for again 15-20 seconds and then switch sides. Then of course you want to do it for both hamstrings, yeah? Press down on the ground for 15-20 seconds. In more advanced versions, you're going to add a second and a third set, because don't forget this is a strengthening exercise, not a stretch. Okay? So you want to add a second and third set when you've built up to it. Now, we want to stretch, or rather strengthen, the deep rotators of the hip in the in that long position, and this is how we're going to do it. You're going to bring the knee to the opposite shoulder, the contralateral shoulder, and then you're going to pull with your ankle towards yourself. So it's not here, but here. Okay? Now, a more comfortable way of doing this is to put your knee, put your ankle against your thigh and pull your knee towards yourself. Alright? But in that case, you can't get the knee to the opposite shoulder as much as you can with a hand on the ankle like this. And you'll feel it in the deep rotators of the hip. Okay, again, hold for 15-20 seconds, but it's not just a hold. You're actively actually pushing outwards, trying to strengthen your ankle. So this would be more comfortable because unless you're very strong in your arms, it's going to be very difficult to resist that outward rotation or inward rotation of the hip, but that movement of the lower leg outwards. And of course, if you notice, it's actually internal rotation of the hip. Now do it again for both sides. So, like this, you're actually going to push that way, you're going to push the foot that way. And don't forget to engage your core while you do this. And once again, if you don't know how to do that, please refer to the series on core activation and core strengthening exercises. So once again, try and bring your knee as close as possible to the opposite shoulder and then push against it and then push outwards with your ankle, which is internal rotation or medial rotation of the left hip, and push for 15-20 seconds. The next one will be one that you're used to, which is this butterfly stretch. We're not going to stretch and we're not going to flap the wings of the butterfly. Alright? I want you to sit up tall. I want you to put your forearms or your elbows on your thighs, but instead of just pressing down, I want you to press your thighs upwards so there's no flapping. Okay? You don't want to cause micro tears in your adductors. That's not what you want to do. So press down, okay, bring down, sink your elbows. I sound like I'm teaching Tai Chi Chuan. Sink your elbows down, sink your shoulders down, but at the same time press up with your thighs against your forearms. Okay, again 15-20 seconds. Now the next one is a sort of a split, but again, you're not trying to sink down as low as possible. What you're trying to do in this position is to try and press your thighs into the ground or together. So you're not trying to go down as low as possible. You're trying to get up. But you're using gravity and the ground to resist that getting up. Hence, you strengthen your muscles of your adductors in that long position, in that longest position. But you're really trying to close your legs together. You're not trying to release. In normal passive stretching, you're trying to release and relax. In this case, you're not trying to release and relax. You're trying to strengthen those muscles. So you're actually working them by pressing down on the ground and trying to close your legs and trying to get up, but you're not allowing yourself to get up. So press again for 15-20 seconds and then come out of it. And then you can repeat for a second or third set. Now, when I say you're not letting yourself get up, it's because we're doing static contraction. If you have rubber bands or you have cables on each leg and you can close them, similar to the machine, you know that machine, the adductor machine? If you have that, the challenge with the adductor machine is that it only trains all those muscles that don't cross the knee joint. So if you have the gracilis and the sartorius, for example, that cross the knee joint, you're not training those. In order to train those, you have to go into a split position where your knees are extended. And I don't think we have a machine. We have a sort of a machine for that in the gym, but it's not very common. Most of the time, you're in a seated position where your knees are flexed. So if you can get your legs to be out and your knees extended, which means your legs are straight, and then you try and close them together. That's the position you're trying to do, and if you can do that actively against resistance, actually move through the full range of motion, that will be good. Otherwise, you just have to do them in this manner, okay? You have to do them in this manner and press against the ground. If you are conscientious enough, you can move your legs closer and press into the ground for another 15-20 seconds. Move them closer and press into the ground for another 15-20 seconds. So you get more training in a greater range of motion rather than just statically in the widest range of motion. Okay? So you can do it at various parts of the range of motion, holding that isometric hold where you actually contract against the ground. And that is hip mobilization. Let me try and think. The hip flexors we have done, hamstrings we have done, and adductors for both positions, knee straight and knee flex we have done. So I think we've covered everything for hip mobilization for now. So I hope to see you in the next video. I hope you benefited from this video in which I've tried to explain the various exercises for hip mobilization, because if you remember, the key is keeping your ankles and your knees mobile will keep keeping your ankles and your hip mobile will keep your knees and your lower back healthy, because your knees and your lower back are meant to be stable and not mobile. If your ankles and your hips become stable because of injury or immobility, because you don't do much work on them, then what's going to happen is that your knees and your lower back are going to be forced to be mobile, and they will get injured because they are meant to be stable. Thank you very much for watching this video. I hope to see you again soon.